Did you know that 80% of sales require at least 5 contact points with a customer for them to want to work with you? That's a surprising statistic, but it's really just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more at play here when you're trying to get somebody to work with you, and much of it actually depends on culture. So today I've got a special challenge for you. As I'm going through this video, I'm going to give you some questions, and I just want you to think about the answer and remember it, because by the end of the video, it's going to reveal the type of business person that you are and help you approach new clients on a global scale so you can grow your business and start making money online. But for now, have you ever thought about the number of relationships that you are failing to forge and the number of people that you could be helping every single day if you fail to take action and actually reach out to people that your business can support? Could you imagine a life where you get to wake up in the morning, work with people you actually like and care for, and help them reach their dreams? And did you ever consider how both of these together can help you build a business that you actually love and bring you a ton of new business each and every single day? When I started my online English school, it wasn't just about money, because let's be real, nobody actually gets into teaching to become rich. But as you also know, we live in a world where we require money, and we require more and more every day in order to be able to live. So with all of this, how did I get over feeling sleazy every time I needed to reach out to a potential student and sell them a course so that they can learn and I can live? It actually has to do with a lot of lived experience. If you don't know, I've actually lived in 6 different countries, and all of these experiences have brought me invaluable insight into working with people from all over the globe. Working with people from different cultures, you have to understand how to interact in a way that doesn't offend them, but also helps you to advance in your personal goals. So here's my first question for you. When you approach a potential client, do you prefer to outline a problem and give them a solution? Or do you prefer to guide them to a solution as they get to know you? I want you to choose either guide or outline, and remember or write down your answer. Now stick around until the end of the video, because I'm going to reveal the critical, crucial factors regarding culture that's going to help you to thrive in an interconnected business world. But first, let's take a step back and look at the power of persistence. I actually speak Spanish pretty fluently. I don't mean like, hola, mi nombre es Sean, but I mean full conversations. Do you think I managed to speak Spanish as well as I do by giving up whenever things were a bit difficult or I couldn't understand something? Not really. I worked hard for a really long time, about 15 years, and even today I continue to take more Spanish lessons so that I can grow my skills and get better every single day.
Y no es una época que para mí en los Estados Unidos es muy importante porque era antes de la integración.
Here's an interesting fact. According to IRC Sales Solutions, only 2% of the people that are senior marketing are ever going to buy your service the first time you talk to them or email them or call them on the phone. You might be wondering if there's anything you can do to make that number go up very quickly. Not really, but also yes. The human brain is absolutely wired for us to feel the way we do when somebody approaches us with a business proposal. But some cultures might enjoy a cold outreach approach to business, whereas others simply aren't going to tolerate it. They're going to ignore you and never talk to you. So here's my next question. So get your pen and get ready to write it down. When you are planning a meeting with a potential client, are you very firm and need a lot of structured time to meet them, or are you a bit more flexible with starting a meeting a little late or letting it run over a certain time? I want you to choose between flexible or punctual. I've got one more question for you, and then you're going to learn how this is going to reveal a lot about your personal approach in working with other people. But before we get into this, let's take a look at follow-up emails, because it's one of the best ways for you to increase engagement with someone else and get them interested in talking to you about your service or potentially build a relationship with them. The best way to write a follow-up email is always to start with something personalized. Usually this is a greeting with the customer's name, or you might include something about a recent victory or change in their life. If you're going about business the right way and actually targeting people you want to work with, people that you have been following and researching, it should be very simple for you you to make a personal connection with them. Next, you need to have an appealing and straightforward subject line. Nobody wants for you to waste their time. You could use something like, I've got a quick question about the recent product, service, or experience that you had with my business. Put whatever you need there to make it work for your specific context. Lastly, you want to end with a clear and easy call to action. And if possible, you want to ask them a question with a specific date so you can know when you can follow up with them next. It's important to be able to pin down a time. However, you need to be very aware of the person you are interacting with and how their culture may perceive this. Some cultures might think this is appropriate and others might find it a little rude and off-putting. So let's shift gears here and let's go into calling a prospect rather than emailing them. You really want to be careful if you're calling a business owner or a business that you have not made contact with previously or you might not know so well. Depending on the country that you are in, this may be considered extremely rude. Americans might not care too much if you call them on a random day to pitch your services. In fact, we might even value it and see it as the entrepreneurial spirit. In some countries, for example, Serbia, they much prefer for you to be introduced to them through someone else that they know. So think of it as connections, connections, connections. Now on to the last question, and this one is super crucial for you to understand more about yourself and your approach to business. When you meet someone new who you think you can help, do you contact them and get straight to business? Or do you take a bit of time to understand who they are on a more personal level and later move into the business proposal that you have prepared? I want you to choose here, relationship or direct. Now back to calling businesses. Before you make a cold call to anyone, you want to make sure that you have a lot of information about the prospect if you've never contacted them before. If you have called them previously, you might want to refresh your memory on who they are, the interactions they've had with you or your business. You might want to take some notes about the last thing you talked about. It'll make it instantly easier for you to build rapport and refresh their memory of you. The last and most important thing that you need to consider is if you are doing it at the correct time. In some cultures, it might be appropriate to call in the morning, whereas others later in the evening. Now, not everybody likes a cold call. I know it firsthand because they make me quite nervous as well. So if you are more of a social salesperson and you want to make contact with somebody by sliding into the DMs, let's look at an approach you can take that's going to help you understand cultural differences and also help you increase your chances of getting a response. For starters, you definitely want to keep the tone light and friendly. You don't want to go in, guns blazing. Here's what I can do for you. Talk to me now. Keep it chill because remember, at the end of the day, you're reaching out to somebody that you don't know over the internet. Coming off too harsh in the beginning can definitely turn them off and push them further away from you. Social media by nature is a less formal approach. So, general rule, keep it light, keep it casual, and you want to lead with something engaging to get the person you're speaking to interested in paying attention. And very important thing is when they respond, you want to be quick. You want to answer back. The best way to do this is to always share useful content and ask open-ended questions. Don't close off the conversation by asking a question that somebody's going to say yes or no to. So, are you curious to understand why I asked you these 3 questions and why I asked you to keep them in your mind or write down how you respond to them? It's actually quite interesting, and it's something that's going to help you feel more confident reaching out to new businesses and expanding your reach outside of your country's borders. So let's discuss the cultural factors that come together to affect business, how people perceive it, and the way people conduct business around the world. There's this Dutch psychologist, his name is Geert Hofstede, and he actually came up with a model for helping people understand why different cultures approach business in different ways. And there are actually 6 big reasons why people do this, and I'm going to go over them. And at the end of the video, you're going to see how they all tie into the questions that I was asking you. So the first big cultural aspect of business is individualism versus collectivism. And this is essentially going to tell you in a society how well integrated are people into groups versus doing things alone. In individualistic societies, people generally tend to look out for themselves and their immediate family. But if you look at a collectivist society or a collectivist approach to business, individuals expect the people that they interact with in business and personal life to help them because they are helping them just by being in contact with them. So everybody kind of works together to reach a common goal. So, how does this affect business? In the USA, a highly individualistic country, email communication is going to be direct, to the point, and trying to create a business opportunity from one simple email. Meanwhile, if we compare this to the approach of Japan, where it is more of a collectivist approach to business, the communication that you are sending is going to have to kind of bring into light how all of the company and all of its employees are going to work together with you to solve a problem that they are having. The next big cultural impact that the Dutch psychologist found is masculinity versus femininity. And you might be thinking, how at all is this related to business? But hear me out, because I promise once I explain it, it's going to make a lot more sense to you. Masculinity and femininity in cultural aspects of business refer to the emotional roles between groups of people within a team. Some countries are inherently more masculine, so they are going to prefer masculine traits and approaches to business, whereas some countries and cultures are going to be more feminine in the approach. And this masculine approach is really not going to garner a lot of attention or get a lot of traction. So, what exactly does this mean if we break it down? And how can you recognize if a business that you're trying to reach is going to be more masculine or feminine in their business approach? Well, masculine societies are going to tend to be more fierce and more competitive. Meanwhile, if we compare this to a feministic approach to business, everybody that is within this culture is going to care about the overall well being of the business and the people that are living within the society. We can compare Japan and Sweden. Japan is a more masculine approach to business, so they're going to value success, competition, and a rigorous work environment. Meanwhile, if we look at Sweden, which has a more feministic approach culturally to business, you're going to see a higher level of work-life balance. The more people work, the more time they're going to want to take off to have with their friends, family, and they're going to focus on living in the moment, enjoying life. The next important cultural aspect of business is long-term versus short-term orientation when you are starting to work with a new person or on a project. Basically, this has to do with how well a culture is able to forget their past, or how long they are going to hold on to it, and how that is going to affect their business approach and interactions with other people on a daily basis. Generally, we can see that education is important in this type of society, and they are going to use education in order to grow economically throughout the world. On the other hand, we have short-term oriented cultural approaches to business, and these societies are generally going to be a bit more conservative and focus on traditional values and norms, and you're going to see this bleed over into their business approaches. China is a great example of long-term orientation in business. In China, you're going to encounter lots of intense planning and focusing on the future, looking at a long-term plan to reach a specific goal. If we compare this to the business approach of the United States, where we expect everything to be instant, this is more of a short-term goal. We look at a short-term problem and create a short-term solution, rather than looking at something holistically, taking a step back and looking at it from a bigger perspective. Now, I'm not saying one of these is better or worse than the other. My whole goal of this video is to help you understand how you're going to interact in business and cultural situations with people from different countries and backgrounds, so that you can better improve your approach and help more people ultimately. The next important cultural aspect of business is something called power distance. Basically acknowledges that people within society, no matter what society it is, are not always going to be equal. You're going to have people who are higher, people who are lower, people who are richer, people who are poor. But power distance really helps us understand how a business within a certain culture is going to address these issues of inequality when they are working with other businesses or directly with people that they're trying to help. In societies with a high power distance, less powerful members accept that they have less control and say over a solution or an outcome. Meanwhile, if we look at societies with a low power distance, people generally strive to make things equal, make things fair, and make sure that everybody gets their fair share. For example, Malaysia has a high power distance. Business structures generally have a clear hierarchy, and the decisions come from the top, and they are mandated to the people at the bottom with within a business. Meanwhile, in Austria, there is a low power distance. So organizations generally tend to have flat structures where the people at the top are working and incorporating people in the bottom, taking in their perspectives, taking in their point of views, and generally just taking advantage of the talent that they have working with them. Let me know in the comments what you think the power distance of your country is. Do you think your country has a high power distance or a low power distance? And let's start talking about it. I think it's something super interesting, and it's definitely going to help you to interact with more people on a daily basis and potentially close more contracts. The next cultural aspect is quite interesting, especially for somebody from the USA or from the UK. Uncertainty avoidance. This means how well is a culture or society able to deal with a lack of uncertainty when it comes to work, government, everyday tasks. We often see a similar structure to this in Greece. We need predictability, we need strict rules, we need laws that help govern us and keep us working every single day. Meanwhile, if we look at a country like Singapore, which has a low score, they're more comfortable with ambiguity and taking risks because for them, it's a part of everyday life. So, what kind of a communicator are you, and how do all of these different cultural nuances affect the way that you interact with people on a daily basis? And how can you use it to improve your business communication and your business follow up? Looking back at the questions, if you decided that you were direct, precise, or efficient, or rigid with your time, you're going to align more with an individualistic business approach. You're going to want low uncertainty avoidance, structure, processes that you can follow, and you're definitely going to like more masculine cultural norms. I'm not saying this is going to apply to everybody. I'm just going based off what this Dutch psychologist said. And I'm going to link to all this below so that you can understand how it affects people's approach to business, and you can really define how it affects the way you approach business. Let's back up for a minute. What if you chose flexible, building a relationship, and you don't really care if a meeting starts a little late or runs a little over? You might fit in more with a collectivist approach to business, or you could be cool with a high level of uncertainty avoidance. If there is not a clear structure, it's cool. You might go a little bit more with the flow. Above all, you might identify more with feminine cultural norms. Identifying, understanding, and adapting your business approach to all of the various cultural differences that we can see can really help you to grow your business at an international scale. Are you curious to see how all these cultural insights apply specifically to you and your business? If so, you can grab the comprehensive Business Communicator quiz using the link in my description below. This is going to walk you through a comprehensive assessment that's going to help you to identify which type of business you're interacting with so you can modify your approach to potentially win their business and start a relationship with them. This is super powerful because when you start working with other people from other cultures, you're going to understand how to be just overall a more effective communicator. It's your turn to tell me which of these cultural aspects to business resonates the most with you and which one do you think is absolutely awful. Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Last but not least, if you found value in this video and you think, hey, this is something that could actually help me to build a business internationally and interact with people who are completely different from me, why not hit the subscribe button? Why not hit the thumbs up button and share it with somebody else who might benefit? That's it for today's video. My name's Sean. I hope you enjoyed this. Keep learning, keep growing, keep trying to expand, and push yourself to go to places you never thought you could. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.